I'm Gary Smith, and I'm here with Charles Buell and Christopher Murphy, and we're in the house bringing you three perspectives on the latest inspection news and events. Thank you for joining us in our Sunday open mic show. Hello, two dudes.
How's it going, Gary?
Great.
Mr. Gary.
Mr. Charles. Yes, sir. We've got a really juicy topic today, and this is we do juicy stuff all the time, so that's a good thing. We're talking about client complaints, and it could be a number of things. So the client complaint thing could be, well, it could open up the who is your client question, or are they agents? Is an agent your client? Is the client? Our show today, we want to try to focus on your client, your paying client, someone who actually gives you money. And according to marketing metrics, your probability of selling to a new prospect, this would be like a cold call, is just shy of 20% versus 70% to an existing customer. So an existing customer is going to be much easier to sell your repeat, your client, your data, whatever you're pushing. It's going to be much easier to sell an existing client. So you want to hold on to those clients after you get them. And I think we have this opportunity to say, well, you know, how can we, the customer is unhappy. That's usually when we get a complaint. But the real question is, how do you set your business up in order to either foreshadow that, to begin to recognize it before it comes? How do you set it up? And I think one of the main keys is knowing your client, but customer feedback is absolute gold. The Office of Consumer Affairs reports that every customer who bothers to complain, there are 26 customers that remain silent. So maybe they didn't like the experience, and they just never called, and you won't get them back. So it is important. So are you making it really easy for your clients to offer you feedback? So that would be a question to ask. Do you tell them, when you're working with them, or after you're working with them, or before, do you tell them to pick the phone up and call you? Do you send them a survey? So what do you guys do to gather client feedback, guys, if you do?
Well, it's all coming back down to my process that I normally handle. Whenever I first walk in, I'm already building a rapport with my client. So I describe my process to them. And then even through the inspection, it's not always home inspection stuff. I'm talking with them about where they're moving from. Is this their first house? Mm-hmm. And if it's their first house, I'll show them some basic things around their house. Mm-hmm. And so you want to build this rapport with your client whenever you're going through the process, and that will help reduce any type of complaints you're getting. Mm-hmm. And
so
when it comes,
communication is really big.
Everything. Yeah, it's everything. Communication. You want them to fully understand your limitations, what you're doing, how you're trying to help them, educating them on the property. And when it comes down to it, people are not going to want to sue your friend. That's sue their friends. So your goal is to become their friend during this inspection, somewhat, an acquaintance, a very useful acquaintance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Charles has a great reputation of having that. I recall having many conversations with Mr. Buell about that.
Yeah, for me, it starts with the intake call. You
right.
Really, you're looking to connect with them. I call it a kind of a time of bonding. You want to bond with that client and
friendship.
Take every opportunity you can possibly do that, whether it's the intake call or during the inspection, having them there the entire time at the inspection, encouraging them, thanking them. I like to find out how did they find out about me? Most of the time it's because, well, I found your website, or if they've got an agent, they said, well, while I'm grateful for this agent referral, I really want you to know that I'm working for you, and I want to know what your interests are, what your concerns are about the house, how many kids you have. If you can get a client talking about their kids,
right.
you're home free.
Yeah, it falls right in there with becoming their friend. And then also by you asking them what their concerns are, I've broken it down. It's a science. Like you right then and there are turning them into an inspector themselves. So you're including them in on your process. And that is like key. And you're right. It's bonding, like 100%. Bonding is everything.
And you're doing that when the client is, in that particular case, when the client's with you. I did an inspection last week, and the client's in Florida.
Right.
I didn't get to meet him.
Well, Charles, and I do it in person, but Charles said he did it on the phone.
Right.
Like, so just by him doing it on the phone right then and there, that's a huge step. I have an office staff, so I can't really do that on the phone, but I talk to my clients too. So like at the end of the inspection, I'll try to go over the phone with them, or even if they ask me to call them maybe an hour from completion, I'll let them know most of my findings. And that's a good question. What is your concerns? That's huge.
That gets to something that's a big concern to me in our industry. You can have somebody that intakes the inspection. They don't hear your voice. You do the inspection without them being there. They don't hear your voice. They get the report. They're reading the report. They're not hearing your voice.
Especially if you're talking in short, half-baked sentences, and you're not writing the report in conversational style.
So that's as disconnected as you can possibly get, and your risk goes way up. Liability goes way up the less bonding you have.
So you're actually preventing the complaint from taking root to begin with.
That's right.
That complaint has to be fostered in some way, and you never know what folks are going to be kind of sort of offended by or cop an attitude toward. So are you doing an end around on this issue? In other words, are you getting ahead of it? Are you setting up an atmosphere to show your client you care about them from the very beginning? And here's what I mean. So you guys have mentioned it early on in my initial intake, in my initial interaction with the client. I asked them at the very beginning, so what keeps you up at night? Meaning, so are you concerned about what are you concerned about in the house? So I also want to know if this home is their first purchase. The client's experience is important because my conversation will be geared to the level of knowledge about them owning have you owned a home before? So my pitch would be different to a first-time homeowner than it would to someone that's owned 3 or 4 homes. So I sort of think about it like, are you about sleeping with the customers? Like, what keeps you up at night, dear? So so when you understand their pain points so well that you have them feeling like you're reading their mind, I think you're well on the way to preventing complaints from ever getting started.
Yeah, I completely agree. 100%. Because you're going to address certain things. So if your client's worried about wiggly outlets, something really small or broken cover plates, you're going to tailor that report to that client. But if you have an investor and he sees a giant hole in the wall and all he cares about is the panel box, water heater, foundation, and roof, that's what you're going to focus on. But if they don't know how to turn off the water of the house, you want to make sure that you go and show them how to be like, hey, this is how you operate your home. And they're going to be, their whole experience is going to change because
it has to change with every client.
Right. Yeah. It's not like I have a system in place for all my inspections, but you're right. It always changes. It's always adapting whatever to the client.
The real ultimate goal here is you want to get to a place where when you ask that client, how did you hear about me? And they say, well, Billy Bob said, use you. And he says, I have to use you. I mean, that's where you want to get to, because then you're sold already. You don't have to sell yourself at all. You just fulfilling what's already in place and maintaining what's already in place.
So that would be customer retention. You certainly want to have that. You certainly want to retain that customer so that he actually works for you into the future.
If they don't remember you 10 years later without constant contact, that you failed.
And it also, not remembering you, most of the time, I can't tell you how many people I run across where they don't remember you at all, even after their inspection. You're like, oh, I don't even know who that guy is. But if you spend it takes 10 minutes to teach someone how to operate their home and just do basic maintenance around their home. They're going to remember you for that. And they're going to tell your sisters about you and your friends about you because you went above and beyond, that unexpected, would you bring it up at the beginning of the show?
I can't tell
unexpected kindness.
How many times I've run into former clients in the supermarket or wherever at Home Depot, and they say, "Oh, I remember you. You inspected our house." I don't have any clue who they are, but they remember me. Which,
that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the crowd think? We're folks for on the podcast. We're broadcasting this into our group on Facebook. Do we have some feedback in there on Facebook yet, or do we have anybody?
Nope, no one's left a comment yet. But yeah, please write a comment like your experience of like a weird complaint, or or how you think you prevent complaints. That will help us out with some discussion points.
Yep. Any suggestions would be that you have, or any feedback we'd love. So I've got the top 3 tips for handling complaints. I've got a couple of 3 ideas here that we could kind of chew on a little bit. Number 1, put your emotions away. In other words, listen calmly when you do get the complaint to what they're saying, and then just as calmly reply and react to them with the following tip in mind. So here's a creative way to stay calm. Think of the complaint as an asset. You have the opportunity to build the best home inspection company, and you need all the data you can muster. You are actually glad they have a complaint because it gives you the opportunity to market your service. So if you look at the complaint as a marketing opportunity, that tends to change your point of view. Make it an asset. You are happy. You're actually happy they called you. I think it would help you grow. So what do you think?
That's actually
kind of thinking out of the box.
Yeah, no, that's great. Everyone's going to get a complaint, especially whenever you start doing, a lot of inspections out there. The more you do, the people you hire, they're not going to do it the same level you are, but you are eventually going to get a complaint. And the number 1 step in that first thing that you said, whenever you're handling a complaint, is listen. That's the biggest thing. Is you're not perfect. Yeah, you're not perfect. Your inspection company's not perfect, and you want to try to fix any of those holes, right? So the complaint process from the very beginning is listen, and how you let that client know you're listening is you repeat very key words of what they said. So, I don't know, like I have a water stain in my closet and it's an active water leak. I'm sure of it. It's literally simple. Okay. I hear that you have a water stain in your closet. It's active. How do you know it's active? And that's very important. By you asking questions, you start getting their brain thinking, oh, he really cares. And
it's an engagement. Yeah. Right. It's an engagement part of the conversation. You're right.
Yeah, and some of this can even go back to even the name of your company. I mean, you could I think it's a deadly mistake to call yourself something like Perfection Home Inspection or I am the best home inspector. Something like that. That's just setting yourself up for something
that's not imperfect. Yeah.
It can never be true.
Yeah. So number 2, avoid challenging their complaint. Don't tell the client they're wrong. Listen to their complaint and thank them for pointing out the issue.
That's completely agree. Like you call in, you're like, oh man, I'm sorry. not sorry, don't say sorry, apologize, but thank them for bringing it to your attention, and how an action process, like, that tool must be flawed. I'm going to take it out of the field. I'm going to get it inspected, and I want to take a look at what went wrong. You completely agree. I've been taught to turn it into a positive engagement, turn it into something productive, not something or something by them complaining, you changed your business, and that will make them feel like you grew something together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because that's what you would do if a family member chastised you for something, right? You'd learn from it.
Yeah, you learn from it, and it goes back to, as well, is keep your emotions out of it. Like, so you have to. It's very emotional because we take a lot of pride in what we do. I pretty much see it in every home inspector out there. Whenever
what you're saying is that a lot of home inspectors might take it personal.
Oh yeah, I mean, I took it personal. I can't tell you. I had this really bad experience once where I was like, how I just handled it wrong from start to finish. Mm-hmm. There was like, this guy was yelling at me, and then you get frustrated. It's like, so. But by you turning it into a positive engagement from the beginning, how we can better handle it, and then saying that you're going to change something in your business.
Right. So we're talking about staying calm.
Staying calm.
Avoid challenging the complaint, especially on the phone.
Right.
Don't belittle them that they don't know what they're talking about. That would be the worst thing you could do, probably.
Yes.
And number 3, thank your customer. The old saying, "Kill them with kindness," could not be more true in a situation where the customer's complaining. But rather than smile, and pretend that you care, genuinely let them know that you're thankful that they're sharing with you their complaint. For example, you can tell them right off the bat that you appreciate them taking the time to talk to you about their concern, and that you want to make sure you understand exactly what they're saying, which is kind of what Chris was talking about. You thank them, and then you repeat their issue. This opens up the opportunity for you to further listen to them, while hopefully giving them some understanding that you want to actually hear what they have to say. So keep them satisfied. 91% of dissatisfied clients will not call you back.
And they'll tell their agent, and then anyone in the real estate. Anything in the real estate market, especially in those small towns, you'll get destroyed by one complaint. Because the way I handled it, I don't even get work in this little area. I mean, little area, it's Houston, but this whole area, I know I don't get any work over there because I did that wrong from start to finish. So yeah, you want to action process and a system in place, because it's going to happen. You're not going to kill 400 inspections without one person not being happy. Even if you did a good job, it's about a feeling about the inspection.
And there'll be clients that, just because you don't hear, like Gary said before, just because you don't hear doesn't mean that they didn't complain or didn't have a complaint. They just didn't voice it. And
right.
There's nothing you can do to assess how much that happens, other than the fact that you're still working, still getting calls, still turning inspections away. It means that on some level you're working, on some levels it may not be working without you knowing it. But there's no way to really know a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but a good question is out there for most of the people in the group is like, the number one thing, what I've really learned is, you go through this huge action process. They have it set in their mind. They didn't like the inspection. I have a question for both of you. Do you give them their money back? I mean, would you give them their money back for your time and energy, if just to reduce the liability and maybe salvage, be like, well, if you didn't like the product, you don't have to pay for it. Would y'all do something like that?
Never have had to.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Y'all never had to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll change it that I paid out $125 for once for something I missed, but I've never had a complaint that somebody wanted their money back, or it felt like it would help to give their money back.
Right. So just by you following the principle of you becoming a very good friend with them during the whole process, they've never even felt like they wanted to give their money. You had to give them their money back.
Yeah, and I think that kind of falls toward that idea that you're infallible and that everyone makes mistakes, and I've used the payment function to help offset some of the loss. It's going to really depend on the situation. But to carte blanche say that someone's unhappy and they don't have some real core evidence that they were due the entire fee in return, it depends on the situation.
Yeah, I think there's a real danger in getting a reputation as somebody that will cave to somebody if they're just plain being a lunatic.
Yeah, and our job, I think, too, is unique in that it is an opinion that we're giving. We don't have a tangible product to sell them that they could actually use, and that product fail or it come apart or hurt them. Or however, I understand that we're there to observe, and in that observation, if you've observed it wrong, then I could see where there would lie some liabilities. However, for the bulk of what we do, it's an opinion about a home, and a lot of times I've heard through through the group and through from other folks that if you don't like my opinion, then hire someone else to get another opinion. So I think it really does depend on that. So once you have the client, you certainly want to retain the client, right? We got the complaints. You want to stay calm. You want to get to know them. Don't discredit the issue, right? So there are 4 ways to improve client retention. Now that you have the client, and the number one is what really we've already kind of talked about, because it really does help capture the client, number one, when at the intake, but it also helps you retain the client. That's get to know them. Behavior studies have shown that everybody views their service experience as more positive when they don't feel rushed or ignored.
That's right. And boy, I tell you, if the client is there 100% of the time, man, you kill that right out of the get-go.
Man, I can't even tell you that by feeling ignored. And that's the reason why, like, as soon as I'm doing my inspection and as soon as the client shows up, I stop whatever I'm doing. I could be in the attic, I could be on the roof. I'll make the effort, stop, beeline it to them and talk to them, figure out their concerns, and describe exactly what we do.
Do they feel taken care of?
Right.
I want to come back to what Chris was saying, and I think it's so critical it's the thanks for sharing. Let me get back to you on that. That kind of attitude of where you're gonna, thanks for letting me know you got this issue. Now let me look into it. I'll get back to you. And then you can go and look at your 600 pictures you took and figure out whether it's a real issue or not an issue.
Yeah, what he's talking about is, we talked a little bit before we went on live, and how I was talking about my complaint process. And the complaint process is listen, repeat what they have to say, and then my next stop is take time. Take the time. And so what that means is be like, all right, well, let me get back to you on the issue that I've had. So I can go back and I'll look at the report, and then you get back to them pretty much right away. But then it's about engaging them, and you ask questions about it. So by asking questions, it's just like, hey, how'd you find this issue? When did it happen? Where do you think it happened? And this is getting their brain moving. It's making them think. You're giving them the power of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what he's talking about. He's talking about taking the time, and that's very important. And that's also goes back to what Gary was saying. It's about removing the emotion out of it too as well. It gives you time to get your heartbeat down, really logically think about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you get past that point where you realize they're not calling you because they want you to do another inspection for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So another way that to improve client retention might be, and it's very similar to what we've talked about, is have a feedback system, use a survey, or simply pick the phone up and speak with your client after the inspection. Use the feedback to improve delivery in the future.
Yes. Very. It's just a feedback system is very important. And we have that implemented too as well. We like to talk to them on site, and then it's a day or the next day. I need to go back and look at that one, but we always do a follow-up phone call, be like, hey, did everything go okay? And do you have any questions about your report? And if they say yes, we're like, all right, well, let me get the inspector for you, or let me get back to you. And it's about just educating them and really making them understand what they're buying.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the single biggest sin I commit is I'm not real good at calling back people.
Following up.
After they called you, or just cold call following up?
No, it's like, cold calling, like a couple of days gone by, I will sometimes call and say, look, you got any questions, just touching base, that sort of thing. But, I'd say that happens maybe only, it really happens if they weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, the way you described your process to me too as well, you spend a lot of time, more time than I do, and I think most inspectors do, with the client and on site. So I think you eliminate the need for it probably. But since if you're knocking out 2 or 3 a day, you don't have the same time you're talking about, right? So I think
totally different business model.
Yeah. On my business model, it's very important that we get that follow up. But on your business model, you kill it before it even happens, right? Before the need of it.
Yeah. So the third way on client retention, set client expectations early and then follow through. So we all know that the clients, most of our jobs are for buyers, and everything about them right now, when they buy a house, when they talk to you, is uncertainty. Everything is uncertain. So if you tell a client you deliver the report by 5 p.m., you need to do it. Correct. If you tell the client you'll follow up with them, you need to do it. So
and call if there's something you can't, your computer crashed or whatever, and keep them in the loop constantly as to when that report's coming. If it's for some reason you've missed the deadline or can't.
Right. So if you know your client as well as we've talked about, they are in a zone of uncertainty, and you can help them eliminate that uncertainty and offer them a little tad bit of peace of mind, and that will go a long way.
That's in the group here. Greg Shear, he said that ISN helps a lot with the follow-up emails and in his system. So he has
an automated.
He has an automated scheduling system, the email that goes out asking questions, I'm assuming, about his inspection process.
Probably potentially offering the opportunity to leave a review at some point in time, some type of online review or.
Yep. And then John Mark said, thank you for the sessions. He says, if you can't catch us during the live, he always watches us later. So that's really nice.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. So we've got another one. Be nice unexpectedly. It makes people happy, and it sticks out in their mind. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give somebody a gift after end of every inspection, but create something nice that's out of the ordinary that goes a long way.
I think
Right.
if you're just a plain nice person on the inspection, that is so out of the ordinary for most people's experience today, where they expect to be rushed through the process and just kicked out the door.
Well,
If you're there and they can see that you don't care how long the inspection takes, you don't care any of that, you get there.
Right. Unexpected niceness too. Yeah. I think that they're just going to remember you forever when it comes to that. And Charles said something at the beginning of the show, and it doesn't even have to be tangible. So you don't need to give them a pen or glasses. It's about you creating this good experience for them during the inspection, and a positive experience that you can go through and move forward, and they'll remember you. Yeah.
The dog and pony show.
Yeah. And
you don't get on a performance, and if they're not happy with the performance, it's no different than going to Zanzani or a music festival or whatever. You've got to put on the performance.
That goes back to one of our first shows too. So if you're listening to this, make sure that you go back to our first show, and that goes back to what we talked about before about putting on a show during your inspections, about how you do your inspections.
Yeah, the name of that show was "Are You Sleeping with the Agent?" So that should resonate. That should resonate with with you as well. So the last thing that we'll talk about here with respect to this, those tips, is create an anticipatory service, and that's a big long word that really just says, if you think it's hard to believe that anything would be more important than customer service, you're right. Anticipatory service can be as simple as calling and asking, is everything okay? And that means creating that anticipatory service in your mind. It's a habit that you provide, that you attain. And before the client calls you, so you want to reach out to them and ask, is everything okay, before the client calls you to say something's not okay. So you want to, the intent is to say you want to be proactive in your customer service.
Yeah. So it goes down to, I know I break it down super simple. I like to break everything. It's about who tells mom first. That's how I like to look at it. Like you're trying to get the better side of this argument that could probably happen.
The interesting thing that stands out here in this conversation we've had for the last half hour is we're not talking about the agent at all.
Right. No, it's
talking about our client. And
if your client's happy, that experience is going to fall into the agent, even if the agent isn't happy that they didn't get their choice inspector during that time. If you create this great environment for this client, the client's going to say nothing but good things to the agent. Even if the agent's upset with you, they're going to turn around and like you in the end.
I agree.
It's not in an agent's interest to not like a happy client.
Right. Yeah.
Whether
What it's a lot of good juice here today, and we're going to sign off now. If you guys would like to follow us on YouTube, please do so, and click the follow button and the little bell, the little notifications button, so that you'll be able to get all of our notifications. We're on SoundCloud and on iTunes. I'm Gary Smith for Charles Buell and Christopher Murphy. We're going to see you soon.